Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph. Come on in, pour yourself a drink, and join us out on the deck as we inspire, encourage, and empower one another to live authentic, audacious, above-only lives. It's all right here at the Beach House. Welcome to the Beach House, everybody, with Mo and Steph. How's everybody doing today?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. We are continuing today with our series on the stories that we tell ourselves. And today we're talking about the stories that we tell ourselves about our identity and self-worth. And we are so excited to have our special guest with us, Dr. Niedra Heckman. She is a scientist. She is a speaker, and she is the author of, let me get this right.
Get it right.
World Where I Belong, My Quest for Identity as a Black Woman in White Skin. Now that is a power pack title.
That's a title.
So much. It's great to be here with you too.
Thank you for being here with us. Man, that title, man, it's speaking to me. So let's just get right into it. Tell us about it.
Yes.
Well, the book came about because I gave a TEDx talk, which was it was an event that my then employer decided to hold. And so I auditioned and was one of eight people of those who auditioned who was selected to give a TEDx talk.
Nice.
Yeah. So the theme was togetherness. So I decided to talk about a superpower that all of us have in any organization or social setting where we find ourselves among our peers. And the superpower is to recognize the beauty in each of your peers, which can allow those individuals to be themselves, because we all go through times in our lives when we can think of, well, maybe not every single person, but
I think every single person.
At one time or another felt like they didn't fit in. How they identified, they didn't seem like they could find it where they were. It could be some major thing, or something really minor that's specific to that particular social set. But if we can see the beauty in each other, but more importantly, also first see the beauty in ourselves, then that really helps us to relax, to be ourselves. That was the message and the call to action from my TEDx talk. And people said, oh, you need to make this into a book. So so that's what I set out to do. And I hope that through my book and through the stories in it, it's a memoir. So these are stories from my life, times when I felt like I didn't fit in, or I was told I didn't fit in. So it was definitely made clear to me. But actually, how it is possible to find that you fit into lots of different places, and how it's possible to see beauty in yourself when people are telling you, some people, not everyone, that you aren't, and how to recognize and appreciate those individuals who always have your back no matter what, because they see the beauty automatically. How to personalize that to yourself, and how to also give that as a gift to other people, to recognize the beauty in them.
Wow.
That is so awesome.
That's amazing.
It's funny because you and I kind of grew up in the same settings, but never met each other.
Right.
We know the same people, but never met ourselves.
Really?
Isn't that
That's wild. That is wild.
Yeah. I mean, the setting of, the visually impaired and, dealing with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, we knew a lot of the same people, but I guess one of the things that I dealt with in my identity is not wanting to be, set in that group. So a lot of the things that my other friends went to and enjoyed, I chose not to go to, so I wouldn't be in that group. So,
Right.
So we never met. And now here we are.
Now here we are. It's amazing. We got connected not through that means, right? Directly as children, but through the idea of identity and belonging, the concept of that. And then people that we mutually know connected the two of us.
Wow.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
Fully, right? That we would meet each other.
Now,
So-
at what point in your life did you feel that, for one, that you felt that you had that difference? And then the second question is, then when did you start feeling empowered in yourself? Like, how many years did it take to start feeling that empowerment that, you know what, I'm awesome. I can accomplish all that God's called me to accomplish. And just when did that happen? Like, was it adolescence, like high school, or like kind of give us a little deepness in there?
Well, the short answer is age 3, and the long answer is probably about age 22. So let me just tell you 2 quick stories. One, age 3 is it's my earliest memory, and this is how I begin my TEDx talk and how I put into context my call to action to recognize beauty in peers. And my earliest memory, we lived in a house that had a lot of mud. Well, it had dirt, but this is Los Angeles. And back in those days, it actually rained. So
Oh,
I
yes,
was,
it did.
and I thought I was so clever. I would put mud on my arm and my face. And I remember so excitedly running into the house because I thought I was the most brilliant kid to come up with this idea to make my skin look like my mom, my dad, and my sister by putting mud on my arm. So I run into the house and I said, Mom, look, I look just like you. And I'm holding out my arms and so proud. So she says to me, Niedra, you are beautiful as you are. You don't need to look like me. You're beautiful as you are. By this time, she scooped me up, hugging me, holding me at the same time. And so she brings me over to the sink and starts washing the mud off my arms and my face. My call to my peers in my TEDx talk is when you see your peers putting figurative mud on their arms, then you can help them to wash the mud off their arms and you can tell them they're beautiful as they are. Because that's what my mom did for me. So before it became popular to have positive self-talk, my mother infused in me self-talk. But I must have noticed that my skin was different than my family, because otherwise, why would I think that I'm so clever to put mud on my arms to try and then say that I look just like you? So I don't know anything that led up to that event that I did, but must have been. And then later on, a few years later, when James Brown's song "I'm Black and I'm Proud" was really popular, and so everyone was singing it, so I joined in because I had an identity of the people I was around, which is I'm Black and I'm proud. So I sang the song, and I was told by family members, kids my age, I'm 5 or 6, and also though adults and people in between, and they told me, you cannot sing that song, you're not Black, talking about my skin color. And I would
Wow.
my mom a few times, but the song was popular for a while. So we'd have family events and there'd be family and friends around, and they would continually tell me, you can't sing this song. So at a certain point, and I think it was really when one of my uncles, I had lots of uncles, but this one told me, you're not Black, you cannot sing this song. And I said, you know what? Then I'm done. I am not Black. But it's one thing to say that and another thing to actually believe it. So what I stopped identifying with was the Black culture, meaning the music,
Wow.
language, the style, and just changing with those as those changed and embracing that change and having a solidarity with a Black identity. However, if you asked me, what race are you? I would say immediately, I'm Black. I didn't look for another race to belong in. I simply stopped identifying with those things that made me Black. But then where else do you identify? And I found that there were other things that I began to identify with. But then fast forward to when I was about 22 and I was working as a chemist technician in a lab, in an R&D lab. And I remember this beautiful young lady, maybe a little bit older, a couple of years older than I was at the time. And she wanted to be married. And she was so upset, thinking she would never be married because she wasn't good enough. She wasn't good looking enough. She wasn't, I guess, wife-like enough. She just felt inadequate, and it was very upsetting for her. And I thought, here's this person, perfect eyesight, beautiful hair, beautiful skin, everything's normal about her. And she's smart. She's also working there with the rest of us. And she was actually, not a chemical technician or chemist technician as I was. She was actually a full-fledged chemist. So she was accomplished, but she still had this thought about herself. And it dawned on me that anyone can feel inadequate in anything. And it's just who they are. But I realized, and there might be other points that I could tell stories where I realized certain things that helped me to really understand that I had beauty, and other people helped me as well by the things that they did and they didn't even know they were doing. But in this particular case, that's when I really became aware that I could really help people feel more comfortable and positive about themselves just by me embracing and feeling positive about myself. Because things, we all have these things and these voices inside ourselves that tell us things that are not really true about ourselves. And it causes us to miss out on loving ourselves and also loving other people. So I guess that was kind of a long answer.
No, that was perfect.
It was perfect. It was powerful. And for the people that are not familiar and don't understand, can you explain how it came to be, or why it is that, you're a Black woman with white skin?
Yes. Well, I have a condition called albinism, and it means that I do not metabolize a certain amino acid that is needed for developing melanin in my skin, my hair, and my eyes. And there's actually two mechanisms for melanin in the skin and hair, and then there's another one in the eyes. But for proper development of the eyes, melanin is needed there. And because I have an inability to make melanin anywhere, or much melanin. So I have dark green eyes because there is melanin somewhat in my eyes, but I definitely don't have a normal amount. So if you look in the back of my eyes and my retinas, it's completely different than normal retinas, which are much, much, much darker than mine. But lack of melanin also causes the structures of the eye to not develop properly. So the nerves can be in the wrong places, the muscles not developed properly, the optic nerve can be in the wrong place or the wrong size. For my particular situation, my eyes seem to have a normal structure, but the lack of melanin in the retinas for me cause a visual impairment. And so anyway, that's why I show up as I am. And each person with albinism inherits a defective gene, if you will, meaning the gene cannot allow for metabolizing the amino acid needed for developing melanin. That's one pathway anyways. That's probably the one I have. I haven't been genetically tested, but most likely. And so that's why I am as I am. And I see the world differently because I don't recognize the details of faces and body language. So I show up differently in the world. I read the room differently. And so these things have shaped my path. Just those small things that are really big is recognizing the subtleties in people and communication and body language.
And that is, it's so true because for me, growing up in the visually impaired world, seeing people with albinism is a normal part of my life because I knew so many people, which is rare for most people that never come across anybody like that. But when you're in our community, you see it quite often. And like you were saying, the things that shaped how you do things and the way you are, I always attribute the way that I am able to really see people
Yes.
because I don't see people, but I
Mhm.
see them because of the experiences that I have had being around so many different kinds of people. So race and differences and things like that never really meant that much to me because my community was all different races. My community had different challenges. And so I
Mhm.
learned how to see people for who they really were versus, the typical outside, things that most people look at. And I
That
think,
makes a lot of
that's
sense.
a gift. I really think that's a blessing
It
and a
really
gift.
is. It's a superpower almost.
I think so.
It
I
really
really
is.
do
Yeah.
because a
Because
lot of the
you're
things,
seeing through things
yeah, a lot
instead of
of
what's
things
in front.
most people get hung up on, I
Hmm.
don't.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting because the schools that we went to, so I'm making an assumption though, Stephanie, that you went to a school that had a visually handicapped
Program, yep.
Hmm.
And
normal
so,
school with
right,
neighborhood. And so did I, except that it wasn't my neighborhood. So I was bused.
right. We had a bunch of people busting it from different areas.
Yes. And you could go to classes with those kids. And then there was a resource room where those who weren't able to readily assimilate could stay in that resource room and get
Hmm.
instruction through that means. I was in class with other people, but socially, when I had a break, then I would come to the visually handicapped program room or where we all had lunch.
Correct.
We were also, maybe thereabouts, pretty near at the same time in school when there was a big influx, at least in the Los Angeles Unified School District, of kids from other countries. So they weren't Americanized, but they were immigrants, and their parents fled countries of Eastern Europe, countries of South America, countries of Southeast Asia. And I remember English as a second language was huge in the school,
Wow.
trying to get the kids able to have a certain level of competency in English so that they could be instructed. But between the visually handicapped program and this influx of kids from other countries, plus being in schools that were in a different neighborhood, which was predominantly affluent and Caucasian, I was exposed to kids for different reasons than socioeconomic status alone and race alone. So what,
Right,
I wasn't in my neighborhood with mostly, let's say, maybe Black kids, or maybe
right.
lower middle class or upper lower class, whatever we were, kids.
Mm.
I think I was like one of in elementary school, I think there was maybe two or three black kids
Ah,
That's about right.
in the whole school.
Yeah.
But
About right.
that's why I can assimilate with anybody because
yeah,
that's why I listen to the music I listen to. I listen to everything. I don't have one genre. I listen to everything because I was exposed to everything.
exactly. Same here, exposed to everything. And what else I was exposed to is the nature of suffering that people have in other parts of the country, I mean, of the world.
Hmm.
Just usually when we think about suffering in the United States, um, we usually think about uh, maybe Blacks who suffered because of the racial strife between whites and Blacks.
Hmm.
And maybe educational attainment is another way we think about suffering, and maybe poverty as well. You know, children who are hungry because their parents are so busy working or aren't home for whatever reason to have food in the home. But I did get exposed to other kinds of suffering in the world due to people's inhumanity to other people. And so religious persecution and people having to leave because of that. Or, you know, maybe a government takeover world where literally people did not have a home anymore because it was confiscated by whoever took over. Or people who were of a certain ethnicity, and that ethnicity lost that particular civil war. And so the people from other countries weren't coming to the US and gaining asylum here because they had white or black skin. It was other reasons, and their suffering was just as great. It seemed to me, meaning that having bombs dropped on you or having your family arrested and maybe killed seemed to be right up there. And it was real time. I mean, that happened to these kids. Whereas I could only go back in history and say, well, this probably happened to my ancestors. And it was so long ago that I don't even know who those ancestors are. But it really changed my worldview about people and about the nature of suffering and about how we actually measure, and if we even should, human suffering, or should we focus on that people come to us and come into our paths with maybe their own history of suffering, either their ancestors or they themselves. And maybe we should just appreciate that possibility about each other and build something positive once we come into contact with other people and then moving forward. It just shaped my point of view differently. And not being able to see and read the room the way other people do, I caused
have
me
to listen to the stories.
accept people. I didn't say, oh, that person is looking at me funny.
Yeah.
Or why is it that that race of people always looks a certain way or does a certain body language? I don't like that. I wasn't seeing it. So I would embrace people based on, like you said, Stephanie, who they are, not so much what they looked like or whether they smiled at me the right way or not.
Yeah, because we actually got opportunity to learn their story, learn
Yes.
their experiences, learn what they were exposed to, and you got to actually know someone.
Yes.
And it makes a big difference, I think.
Yeah. And I think too, because the programs then when we went to school, because I had the learning disability, I was merged in with that same, the kids, So the exposure that Stephanie's talking about, those were my friends too. So we had a broader exposure to people. So like it was almost like the school itself was like the outside world of Harry Potter. And then we had our own world that was actually loving. Like within the core, everybody cared about each other. And there was a different kind of fabric as far as like, how's your day going? How are you feeling? Even the teachers were more caring in that group a little bit, some of them. But
and I think the litmus test for that is the people that I knew and met in elementary school, the majority of those people I'm still in contact with today. That's how much they played in my life.
Yeah.
They weren't just some flyby, I knew so-and-so. Yeah, these people are still in my life today.
Yeah.
Because we got to make real meaningful connections.
Yeah. Even though it kind of felt like it was like they were kind of dividing you, but then they weren't, because in a way, I noticed that they made sure that they concentrated also on the confidence. So there wasn't like the teachers weren't breaking you down, they were always lifting you up. So within the community, there was a confidence and a proudness almost a little bit there that I noticed with the friends that we went to, like in junior high and stuff. There was like a little bit of a proudness there, and that's I gravitated towards that because Steph was the one of the classes that she went to. I think it was it math? No, it was English. Miss Cummings. What class was that in junior high?
She's a math teacher.
Oh, she's a math teacher. Well, they used to hang out. Her and friends they used to hang out in front of that class or whatever. And so I used to just gravitate over there to Steph and everything, and it was just a different confidence, and I loved it in the community of it all. But at what point? I don't know, what maybe in junior high for you, I don't know, where you like stepped out on I love who I am, and no matter what, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna step out, do my thing. And I don't know, maybe college, but was it any time when you were younger, when you were
It was younger because I I think that I had a certain confidence about myself anyway. So I thought I was clever putting mud on my skin. My mother helped me understand I was covering up who I was, but I still thought that was a pretty clever thing to do. So
like, but I thought about it.
I thought there were some good things about myself. And then I usually, my attitude, and I suffered a lot in junior high school. I had this saying, I would say, just as people need to eat and have something to drink every day, I
Mhm.
know I'm going to be made fun of. And I had
Wow.
to learn to walk into fear, into the unknown, because I knew I knew that I was worthy. And this is not what I was telling myself at that time, but
Mhm.
look at it as an adult back to when I was 12 years old. I knew that I was worth enough that I had to go to school every day, that going to school
Yeah.
was important. My mother said, get your college education. And I had seen those commercials, the school rock cartoon commercials for kids, and the the saying, what's it, the Negro College Fund, a mind is a
A
terrible
terrible thing to
Thing
waste.
to waste.
that a mind is a terrible thing to
Thing
waste.
to waste.
I just knew I was going to go to college. I just knew I wasn't going to waste my mind. I knew that I had a beautiful mind that should not be wasted, and it was meant for better things. And my mother used to say, don't worry, the kids won't be making fun of you all your life.
For long.
When the kids get to know you, it'll be better. And she would have to talk to me every day to keep my spirits up, because it was very hard to be made fun of. It's hard to walk into fear, to walk into the unknown, to be the only one sitting in class, and you have albinism and you're sitting in the front row and you're trying to see the board and you're trying to learn and you're taking notes because you know that you don't want to waste your mind and you want to go to college, but the kids are poking fun of you and your mom's fortified you. Niedra, just ignore them. So you learn to swallow the pain of those words that the kids are saying to you.
Mhm.
You learn to look toward the future because you know that if you swallow today and learn as much as you can, tomorrow you will be whatever it is that you set your mind to being. I was a medical doctor, so I had a goal. So I think that I had self-esteem, although I do have a chapter in the book dedicated to, it's like a letter to my mom, where I'm asking her, why did she think that I had low self-esteem? Because she'd say that every once in a while. And I conclude by saying, I had self-esteem like everybody else. I mean, those kids were making fun of me every day because I didn't miss a day of school, because I wanted to have perfect attendance, because that was important to me. So I knew I was going to be made fun of every single day, all throughout the day. And I knew if I walked in certain parts of the school, so once I learned that lesson, I didn't walk in those parts of the school anymore, I was going to be covered with spit from kids I could not
Mhm.
Wow.
see who my enemies were, but I was covered with copious amounts of saliva to the point where I was like, where do you get that much saliva in your mouth? Like,
Oh my
that
goodness.
it's possessed, I'm thinking exorcist. Because, this is
Right.
all timely to that era,
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where I don't know exactly when I can say that I felt like I was beautiful and I had come to terms with all of this. I think that story when I was 22 years old and seeing at this time we're adults, right? We've gotten past childhood. I was just about to graduate from college. She already had, my coworker, and yet she felt this way about herself and her prospects for marriage. Yet I always knew that there was going to be some man, right, who was going to love me for exactly my visual impairment and alabaster skin. I just knew it. I never had any doubt in my mind because I think I had noticed that boys and men, they like all different types of girls and women. I mean, it's not like only one type is the type that gets married,
Right.
Anybody can,
Right.
you know, I just didn't have that barrier, so I was not worried about it. But here's a person who was, and for a reason I didn't fully identify with.
Seem to have everything.
Yes, so
Yeah.
I have to say that's when I learned that I had a gift that I could give to other people, which is to help people feel more comfortable in their own skin. And it is something that maybe it was through a series of just growing up and presenting forward in the world, even though I knew I was going to be ridiculed, but still moving forward anyway, because I have intrinsic value as a human being alive. I had my mom's love. I had the love of, a few friends, meaning I only thought I needed one best friend. I didn't feel like I needed a whole bunch of friends to feel good about myself. So I always appreciated the one best friend I could name. It's not that I didn't have other friends, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that I didn't feel like I ever had a
Right.
lack of love, a lack of lovability, even though I have a lack of pigmentation. I didn't internalize that as I was not a worthy person. I think that's maybe why there wasn't one moment where I came to terms with things. Now, healing from the words that kids said, and not just kids, some adults too,
Mm.
those words, I I don't know that I have necessarily quote unquote healed from that. Maybe the book was a healing because I had to read
Mm.
all that and get it out. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
buried that and just moved on and celebrated the positive things and let go uh, inside myself, the negative things. I don't know how you extract painful, hurtful words out, but I do recognize that the people who said hurtful words to me, I bet had lots of hurtful words
Mm-hmm.
said to them, but
Said to them, huh?
have a support system that I had. And so in that,
Yeah.
they needed some healing that I could maybe offer some help with. And I hope through my book I can. Or
Yeah.
I
And I think, it was the time that we came up into because I notice a lot of, especially in the coaching world today, I notice there's a lot of people that suffer from feeling like they have no worth, that they have no value. And it seems like people that came up when we came up, yeah, you got made fun of and you got all these things done, but it was rare when you felt like I don't count, I don't matter, I'm not worth
right,
anything. It's like we knew, and I don't know, maybe it was because of our culture coming out of the civil rights era and all of that.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
had that pride in ourselves that we matter, we belong. But it's like no matter what happens to me, I am still, God's God's creation and I matter. And I don't know, I just think that's what's lacking today.
That's huge.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
'Cause we all
you hit
dealt
it.
with,
You hit it. You
I
hit
mean,
it.
we dealt with bullying. We
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 did.
dealt with
And
bullying.
not just the bullying, it like you said, it was on all the levels.
Yeah.
It was the dark skin, the light skin, the what didn't matter. You were
Everything.
getting it,
But
and
I don't
then
but
you're a
we
girl.
feel like, hey, I don't
Yeah,
I'm not a worthy person, It's
yeah.
just
Right.
They're just mean.
Yeah.
We understood the separation between what other people think of, thought of us versus
Yes.
what we thought of ourselves.
Mhm.
And I think fundamentally, we didn't let go of that belief in ourselves that we were awesome. I don't know where that belief in ourselves came from. You know, maybe it's true. It's the civil rights era and that general societal pride. I myself removed myself from feeling
Mhm.
that because I was told I couldn't sing James Brown's song. And being so young at the time and immature, you know, that's the attitude I adopted. And most of the time I was with people who were Asian or Caucasian or
Mhm.
Hispanic. So I don't know why, you know, I still felt some level of pride.
I think it was just cultural period because, I grew up around a lot of Hispanics, a lot of
Mhm.
white
Mhm.
people. And I think it was just a cultural thing, period. If you were Asian, you had pride in who you were. If you were
Yeah.
Hispanic, you had pride in who you were. Wherever you were from,
Yeah.
you had this pride of this is who I am. This is my culture. I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
proud.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, today people just don't seem to know where they belong.
Mm-mm. We also had the thing of like you were saying, the you're going to college.
Hmm.
Even though
It
we
was
were little, we're
expected.
like, what is college? I don't know, right?
It was
But
expected.
yeah,
It was,
you're going, right? And then
I
two,
don't
I
even know what I'm
noticed
doing there, but I'm going.
I right, and it's just that self. I remember coming home and walking home from school, and you're getting called the N word, getting things thrown at you and stuff like that, and you go home and you tell your mom, what happened and stuff, and she's like, there's a strength there, never let them see you cry. You
yeah.
always work harder. You always have to work harder than everybody else because you know you got to get ahead. And that was like the fabric.
It's ingrained.
It was ingrained, and like you were saying, Steph, I don't see that anymore because I don't see the self pride of
Well,
just
yeah.
you as an individual or
I
your
mean,
race,
even
but
with us, with the sports and stuff that we did,
mm-hmm,
we worked, I worked overtime to be an athlete because it's like, I'm not going to let these people tell me that I can't do this because I can't see. I'll show them. And that was the attitude. And it's like, you just don't see that. People get told something and it's like, it's over. I'm done. They said I
yes,
couldn't do
I'm gonna
it.
stop right
They
here.
said I
Yeah,
couldn't do it. I'm done. And we just didn't feel that way. It's like, oh, they said I couldn't do it. I guess I better go practice. I better get better at it.
That is true. I remember an eye doctor saying to me, he said, tried to explain my vision to my mother and also to me because I would always ask questions. I wanted to be some kind of doctor, was this nebulous thing.
you're like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. He says if he woke up with my vision, you know, just woke up in the morning with my vision, he would consider it a medical emergency. And he would, and I was saying to myself, okay, so that's his way of explaining my vision. And I'm like, but who is this man talking about? Like, why would he actually even not know what to do with his life? You know,
Right.
why would that be an emergency? He should be able to do everything he normally did the day before. You know, I couldn't even relate
Exactly. It's like
somebody telling me something I couldn't do because of my vision. It didn't
Yeah,
even cute. And I think that's
it didn't register.
reality. The sky was the limit for us. And we just thought we could do whatever we wanted to do,
Yeah.
whatever we put our mind to. And we were willing to work hard to do it. I think we were purpose driven.
I
And
remember.
I don't have children of my own that I raised or anything like that. I don't have children of my own anyway, biological. I have stepchildren, but I didn't raise them. So I don't know, you know, what's in vogue for how children are raised. But it seems like we were really given a purpose and a mission. You will go to college. You don't know what it is.
What you're gonna do.
Right.
Yeah.
You might not know anybody in your family who has already been there, but you're
You're
going.
going. You're going.
You're going.
I remember my mom when I was little, she'd telling me to clean the kitchen, and I'm like, well, I didn't see it. And she grabbed my hand and put it on the sink, and you can touch it. She's like, does this feel clean to you? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, ew, I'm touching this. And every time I tried to give her the line, well, I didn't see it. She's like, give me your hand. And I'm like, oh no, not the hand. But
Don't make me touch
not
it.
the hand. But it's like, that's how we grew up. There was no excuse.
No.
You just were expected to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So we did.
Yeah.
That's
That
true.
gives you that's the foundation of success, right?
It is.
That's
Yeah,
what gave us that
expected.
foundation. Yeah.
And I know we used to say, at my martial arts school, sometimes people lower the bar so low you trip over it.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Ooh.
That's an interesting concept.
That's that's deep.
John and I used to say that all the time. It's like, stop lowering the bar. Keep it up.
I gotta find a plug. I'm looking for a plug, by the way, if that's what you got. Like, what is she looking for?
Are you looking for a plug, Monique?
I am, dude. Excuse me for a minute. Keep talking.
Find
I'm
one.
sorry. I'm in my son's office, so it's like, dude, do you have plugs in here? Like,
I hope she finds one. But no.
yeah,
So, yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
I gotta be on my mission.
we always found a way. And so your identity was made up of, who you were and what you did. And we always found a way.
that's right. And it's amazing what people can do when they don't have any concept of can't.
Mm-hmm. And your limiting beliefs come all around. It could be from people in your family, it could be from anybody who's told you something can't be done. That
Mhm.
limiting belief sticks in the back of your mind. And when you get ready to do something, that little limiting belief is in your little ear, and you're thinking, oh, I don't know, I can't do that. I don't know if that's possible. And then we turn and we go to launching beliefs where somebody said, yeah, you could do that. I bet if you put your mind to it, you could. And it's just a matter of, which one are we going to believe? Which one are we going to go with? Are we going to go with the limiting belief, or are we going to go with the launching belief? But we have them all.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of which one you're going to take.
That's a good point. And I don't know what makes a person take one or the other in different aspects of their life. I kind of wonder.
Yeah.
Well, we went through it so much, I think, that it became a healthy habit. So it just kicks in.
Yeah. It's like,
when it just kicks in.
You get this grand idea of something that you want to accomplish and do, and then you get that little voice in there that kicks that fear in, and you start thinking about all the other people who may have tried it and they didn't make it, and all the other things that didn't work out that you tried, and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, because our brain is meant to protect us. And when we come up with these grand ideas, our brain sits there and tells us, oh, that is a good idea, but you remember what happened last time you tried something like that. We don't want that to happen again. So maybe we shouldn't do it. And then you're like, you're right, I shouldn't. Yeah, that is too risky. Maybe I won't do that. And we go with it.
And then the Lord says, wake up.
Jump. Just jump. Do it anyway.
Aha moment. It was actually about grades because, I wasn't really told you have to get all A's. I was just told do the best you can. And I didn't really come from a family of real high academic achievers in the first place. And I will put that in my nuclear family because I don't want to insult any of my family members.
They're like, wait a minute.
Wait, what?
Just say no. You didn't say it. You didn't say it.
So, well, probably extended too. But, so but one day it occurred to me, you know what? A letter C grade is average. And sure, I could identify with people who get F's and D's, or the majority of people who get C's. And then one day it occurred to me, but gee, what about the people getting A's and B's? I mean, why do I have to identify with C, D, and F when I could identify with the people who are A and B students?
Yes.
And then I think that shaped a lot of my thinking about more like can do. And if one person can do something, why shouldn't I be able to do it somehow? I mean, I might not know how, but theoretically, if one can do it, then
Right.
I could too.
That's right.
So, turning that negative self-talk or that relaxing into, well, most people get C's. And then so D, at least it's passing. It's just barely passing. So you could be comfortable with that too. And if you got time on your hands and you get a bunch of stuff, that can happen is you repeat the grade and you graduate a year later or whatever.
We're all like, nah.
But
it's people like you that got me in trouble, because it's like, I hated science. I'm not gonna lie. I hated science, and I tried everything I could to get out of biology. I'm like, I can't see the slides. I can't see all the stuff. And they're like, well, we've had totally blind people that have gotten A's. And so, yeah, you still have to take it.
Really?
And so as I'm sitting here with chemist Niedra, I'm like, it was her. It was her that did it.
And I have a question, because you were talking about your vision and the different aspects of your vision and your eyes and stuff. Is that what kicked you into wanting to be a chemist? Like, what turned that switch on?
Well, for chemistry specifically, it was basically my mom saying, go to college. And so then it started me thinking, what can I actually do in college that I could get out and make a living? Because she used to tie going to college with things like, if I said, Mom, I'd like a bubble gum. Can you give me a penny to get a bubble gum? Because back in those days, right, that's what a bubble gum was.
Penny bubble gum.
And she would say, Niedra, I give you what you need, but I can't, splurge and give you what you want. We have a tight budget. But if you go to college, you will be able to buy the things that you want while also taking care. So I'm like, what can I do that allows me to buy bubble gum?
Right.
So it just so happened that the things that I have, I could be a singer, I could be an actress, I could be a dancer. I was not as good at those things. But I found when I took science in general in school, I could do well in that. So by the time I got to chemistry, I thought that would be great and help me for medical school, which I never did go to medical school, but I thought that chemistry could help me. And I was good enough at it. If I studied, I could do very well in it. I could get A's and B's in it. So that's how I landed on chemistry. But I think the whole thing about science was just stemming from maybe having to do with my eyesight, maybe having to do with my skin color. But I more remember my grandmother and these vials in the refrigerator, and they were vials of insulin. And I was fascinated with vials of medication. And I would look at them. I never saw my grandmother inject, and I never saw any needles. But I knew that she did have diabetes. My mother told me about it. And I think it was type 1. She was quite young and injecting herself with insulin. But when I saw her in the hospital at the end of her life, which was pretty young in my life, I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice to do something to help people like my grandmother or my grandmother? Because I didn't really think of her that she was going to pass away, but she did shortly after that. I think that might have been the moment that I realized that I wanted to go into science so I could help with people who had diabetes.
Wow. Interesting.
And in the process, she messed me up.
I had trouble with the microscopes and science too, because my eyes, I have nystagmus, so they're always moving.
Like, I don't see any of this stuff. and you want me to draw what I see.
Could you see it when you look through the magnifying glass?
No.
No? Oh,
No matter what magnification, right?
yeah, like,
Doesn't help. And it's like they always want you to draw what you saw
They always,
through the microscope, and I'm like, ah, this
but they have those raised things for kids with visual impairments. So they'd have like a cell and they have the raised structures that you could feel them. But still, it's hard, you know.
right. I didn't get any of that stuff.
Hard to
Oh my gosh. This has been so amazing. This has been
this is
so
awesome.
amazing.
Thank you
I'm
so
so-
much. Thank you so much for coming on, man. This is amazing. This is great.
Well,
This
thank
is
you,
great.
Monique, Stephanie.
We
Your
truly
wife and excuses off the map.
we truly can do anything that we set our mind to.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We really can.
Well, I have a question for Monique.
Uh-oh.
So, okay, you said, because I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure the, you know, how it was that you're sort of like related to this visually handicapped community. And now I understand that you said that you have had a learning disability, and so you were with this group of people. But I wonder if you ever had any alliances where, for example, because your vision at the time maybe, or you know, you always had normal or 20/20 vision, so you would help those who didn't, and they would help you understand certain concepts, let's say outside of class. Was there any kind of alliance like that, or purely social?
That
That
would be
girl right
us.
there.
Be us.
Yeah, it was crazy because one
So
day I was
amazing.
walking down the hall, and she was over there with the class well, we were in the same math class actually.
Mhm.
Can I tell the story, Steph?
Go ahead, tell the story.
Yes.
So
Okay.
many stories.
So we had Mrs. What was her, Cummings or something?
I can't get in trouble for it now.
Yeah, you can. Okay, so because she's gonna know now. Well, I don't even know if she's living. And so we're sitting in class all the time, and I'm the good student, just so
here we
you
go.
know.
Here we go.
Yes. And so I'm sitting there listening to Mrs. Cummings and everything. As I'm looking to my
Voting on
right,
her every word.
anyway, she has her book tilted up, right? She has something under the book, but her book is tilted up, right?
Mhm.
And she is flicking, I don't know if it's spitballs or flipping staples off of the book.
We
As
had
a teacher.
we
As a
had
teacher.
we had BBs and we
Yeah,
had
BBs.
the wax from braces
Oh, wow.
because
And so
my friend Matt had braces, so he had
Matt,
the
really-
wax balls, and then he also had BBs too.
yes,
So,
this
to
poor
amuse
woman.
ourselves in class, we would like let them roll down our little notebook and then flick it. And then it would like
As she's
hit the
studying.
blackboard.
So I'm in this class with her, and I'm learning.
The staples, they got flung off of rubber bands. But
But as the year went on, then the Lord just said, you know what? Go over there and get her.
you need to help her.
And so one day she was sitting out there on the little table, because they had tables that came out the brick wall that you could like study on or whatever. And she's sitting up there, and I just said, hey, you want to come hang out? And I like took her away from the group of
Sure.
delinquents that were doing all that stuff. And
Junior high
so
delinquents.
I got to meet her and meet a lot of different, friends, and just it broadened my world, and that's how I got pulled in. And then plus, like I said, I would have the learning disability. So, I knew what it was like to be pulled out of your class to go to the special room to study on the side, and all the whole stigma of all of that together. And they just kind of merged all our worlds together. But that's how we met. But that was my alliance over there.
We had many stories.
I love that you guys met over BBs and wax wads.
I'm like,
Oh, friendship.
what is she doing?
She was amusing herself in class.
I was like,
What she was doing.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We had this football game that we were going to one time,
He's telling on
and
himself.
we're the street, and it's like dark outside. It's nighttime. We're going to there's a big long line waiting to get into the stadium, and we're like, Monique's like, "Come on, Steph, let's go. We got to get across the street because it's a big major street. We had no business crossing in the middle. We had
Wow.
no business crossing there because it was a major street." So
But
Monique's
I was
like,
there for
"Come
you.
on, come on, let's go." So we take off running across the street, but she fails to mention that there's a center divider in the middle of that street. So we get to it, and bam, I hit the ground. I am on the ground. And I
I
just
tried
did
to save her.
not stop laughing. She's like, Steph, get up. Nobody saw you. I'm like, everybody has seen me. I'm in the middle of the ground.
She's laying there laughing,
on the
not
street.
getting up.
Everybody
I'm
has
like,
seen
oh
me.
my God.
And I'm just laughing so hard. She's like,
I put her in situations. You know what? Let me be honest. It was a trip because I never saw her as blind.
Mm-hmm.
I never
Literally,
like,
she
I
didn't
never,
divider.
yeah, well, no, really. I never
Or the
saw
fence
any.
that we got ready to jump and my pant leg got caught on.
That was because you were trying to date somebody. Anyway, so, but I never saw her having limitations. I think that's why the Lord was like, go get her.
It's like you
Because,
guys need to mesh.
yeah, because as the years went on, it's like I didn't see her that way. So I didn't limit her. I always thought, hey, let's just do this. Let's just go. Let's just do, you know, like, hey, let's run track. Let's go try volleyball, like we were talking about on one of the episodes. Because I never saw her with limitations, but she never walked limited. You know what I'm saying? She never owned, I'm limited. She was more like, hey, you say I can't do it, I'm gonna do it.
Go. Let's do it.
Yeah, that I think that's how the alliance started for life.
I think that's awesome. And I think, you know, I explored in the book too, things that you identify with and things that you don't. And so I guess you could say that a person who has albinism and doesn't have 20/20 vision because their eyes didn't form properly or don't make any pigmentation is disabled. The thing is, I never identified with being disabled because I noticed that I could be in class with all the kids who had 20/20 vision and plenty of pigmentation in their retina. I could get A's and B's along with them. And I could take notes. In some cases, I took notes better than other kids. I made money.
Everybody wanted our notes.
You know, because I learned to do it so well. And I'm thinking, well, am I really disabled if I could do what I want to do? Right?
And is disabled, I think this, okay, there is disabled, but some of it could be disabled with the mindset, right? It's all about how far you push yourself as an individual.
Yes, true.
Yeah. Because you wouldn't be a chemist if you thought I had a disability, right? You wouldn't push yourself.
That's true. And you need some visual acuity to do chemistry, but you don't have to do it from way far away. You can get where you need to be and still be safe and do chemistry. I guess I just never saw a visual disability that would impair me from doing or prevent me from doing anything. And I
think a lot about the mindset.
Class too. And I learned something very important from her. We were answering questions. So Mrs. Jackson or Ms. Jackson, she asked a question and this voice behind me said, associative. And when I heard her voice, I said, oh my goodness, she'd be a great friend. But I was always afraid to turn around because every time I turned around, I would get made fun of and people would throw stuff at me. I mean, they did anyway, but turning around just made it worse because I used front row. And so, but I said, I'm going to reach out to her. So I pulled a Monique, you know, to meet her. And through the course of our friendship, which lasted until she committed suicide when we were just about to be 21 years old. And I write about her in my book. She told me when we were 13 or 14, we met when we were 13. Our birthdays are less than a month apart.
Wow.
said, I don't know what it's like to be happy, Niedra. I'm sad all the time. And I realized that I had no idea what that meant because I was happy all the time. So she didn't get made fun of. She was a beautiful person through and through. And she had a normal appearance and she just lived her life. She was able to walk through life and not really be made fun of. But at the same time, she wasn't happy. And here I was, always, and but yet I was happy inside myself. I think that those differences also play a role. Later, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and her father had it as
sorry.
yes. So very, very nice soul who didn't make it past age 20, you know.
Oh my gosh.
So happiness, organic happiness, I think plays a role as well as that we think we just know we can do things. We have a nurturing environment. We have good friends. We have
You are so right.
those things, those ingredients to being able to make a life where we
actually had people tell me, why are you so happy all the time?
Ah,
I'm like, are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah.
They don't like it. They don't like it. I'm like, why not be happy?
Yeah.
Why?
Wow. It's interesting. Wow.
I like the of happiness.
Yeah. I'll take that.
I think it makes life bearable.
Yes.
Hey, it's already rough
It
on
makes
its
life
own.
so much bearable when you can just be happy.
Yeah.
You don't have to be sad all the time.
Yeah.
I agree.
And it's
Dang,
nice
ladies, we have pushed through. We shouldn't call this pushing through because if you think about all the things that you've overcome to be who you are right now and to be that powerhouse that God can use to change just the world in different ways, in ways we don't even know we're doing it.
Yeah, it's everybody's got a gift. Somebody asked me, she said, "What's your superpower?" I didn't even have to think about it. I said, encouraging people.
Encouraging people.
I didn't even have to think about it. It's like I encourage people. I can't help it.
Yeah.
That's
your gift.
Whenever I come across, I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to motivate you. I'm going to lift you up. That's what I do. I didn't even have to think about it. And we all have that thing that we can do. And if we just focus on that thing instead of all this stuff that's going on all around us, if we just focus on that thing that we do naturally, and it's going to turn the world around.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, great.
Oh, man.
Yeah, this is awesome.
This is good. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed talking with both of you. You're so fun.
It's so cool
Yeah.
because as soon as I heard from one of our mutual people that we know that you had written a book, I'm like, oh, really? What was it about? And I just started to ask questions and be curious, and I said, we need to have her on the podcast.
Yeah.
We need to share that story.
Yeah. More than once, because we're gonna have you again.
It's just gonna encourage so many people, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. I ordered your book. I can't wait. It should be here. I think it said Tuesday, and so I can't wait to get into that and read all of the stories. And we have the link in the description so you can order Niedra's book because you gotta have it. You gotta have it. I want you to have it. You gotta have it. So go on Amazon, order that book, and we have how you can get in touch with her and share the wealth, man. Share the wealth. And of course, if you have not subscribed to the Beach House yet, subscribe. What are you waiting for?
Get it done, people.
Just do it now. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button.
Right, do it.
And share this stuff, man. This is good stuff. We could be on here talking about all kinds of crazy stuff, but we're on here talking about stuff that's gonna actually make your life a happier, healthier place. So do it.
Yes. Yes.
And
so excited.
we will be on here next week with with the next thing from our stories that we tell ourselves, because we tell ourselves a lot of stories, but we're not going with any of those though.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
We're going with the good stuff here because
Yes.
that's what we do on the beach house. So
We're here to empower.
empower,
We're
encourage,
Great
inspire.
job.
Yes.
Thank you, Niedra, for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for encouraging people to be themselves and be proud of who they are.
Please do it, people. Please do it. It's worth it. Find the beauty in yourselves. Find the beauty in other people.
Yes.
Yes.
That is words to live by.
Yes. And thank you for joining us.
And we'll see you again next week on the beach,
House
with Mo and Steph.